Well, as a trial court judge for 27 years, 4.5 years of which I was the chief administrative judge, I did my best to make people understand and know that I saw them. I acknowledged their pain, their suffering, their comments, their statements. But I also had them recognize that at some points there were rules and regulations that we had to apply. And when we had discretion, and when we do have discretion, we have the opportunity to assess whether or not we can take a risk on some people and give them an outcome, maybe not completely dictated by law, but fashioned with the community support and organization. So it allowed me to see that the exterior, the outcomes of some children, we're born where we're born. You know, we don't get to select our parents. And maybe sometimes they learn later in life that things could be better and they act in accord with that. So I always thought that I saw a little bit of myself and my family in the sufferings of other people who came before us, and tried to do the best that I could to understand how the system could help them, even if it meant inside of a system rather than in the community. I had two incredible parents. They were not formally educated except for a few grade school years, sharecroppers, and they had this strange magic of making us feel safe and important in a time when we were not safe, and the society didn't think that we were important. And so out of all of that, I'm just amazed when people say, well, how did you get from there to here? I don't know what the formula was, except I always felt unconditionally loved. Even if someone else would define allowing your children to grow up in such a society and such dire straits and poverty, how could that be love? I guess love has a depth, I think, beyond just conditions, but it really is the inward feeling of safety, comfort, and acceptance. So I've been really fortunate that I had that beginning in one way, maybe unfortunate in other ways, because if it had not been so bad and I had that kind of love, where could I be? I'm in a real satisfying place, but as a trial court judge and as a chief judge administrator, I recognize that so many children and families in our communities fall by the wayside and have tragic things happen to them and do tragic things to other people, because I believe they didn't have that type of love that I experienced as a child. We live in a community in Milwaukee County that is extremely diverse. We have, for example, in the court, about 30 different languages where we have court interpreters ready at a notice to give interpretation and translation to documents and to people who come before us who we cannot communicate with. So we know in the court system just how diverse we are, how many different sects of SECTS of people come before us, religious and otherwise, seeking an outcome. And so I think when we don't have that diversity on the bench, we don't have an opportunity to learn from each other, kind of cross-pollinate the legal professionals, the judges and all, to understand the cultures and also the interests and the rights of other people that come before us. I think that every institution, not just the courts, corporations, universities, should mirror at a minimum the people that they serve. So in the appellate court, I still feel as if I am judging people, their interests, their assets, by the same standards, but with a different viewpoint. It's an error-correcting court, not a policy-setting court, and not a trial court, not a finder of fact, not one overseeing a jury, but still a very, very important court, because you get another opportunity to have trained legal professionals. A lot of us have served on the trial court. Some served in other capacities that made them ready to serve in this review capacity. But it's a really, really important court, because when you think about it, all of the trial courts have cases, 249 of them. There are 16 appellate court judges. Those judges have an opportunity to review the work of the trial court and to decide whether or not they committed any error that requires additional work. That's a pretty important job. And most of the appeals begin and end with the Court of Appeals. Yes, I would like to say to those in the legal profession, those in the social sciences, those anywhere, that they should never give up hope on their dreams. I am amazed. Sometimes I think about my own life as right now, as having an out-of-body experience when I look back from whence I came and where I am now. I mean, I've had an opportunity to have an amazing journey despite the fact of the rough roads of my beginning. And it was because of so many different people, like the kind I tried to describe in these few minutes, who reached out a hand to either my family directly or to me along my path. I have 3 degrees. It is an amazing thing. And I'm glad that my parents were alive at the time I received my final one, my law degree from Marquette.